Welcome on this new format by volatility.com. I've got about 20 charts to show you today. We're going to talk macro, we're going to talk micro, we're going to talk volatility, spot, talk about the things that are happening in the market at the moment. So let's get started. So the table at the top is going to show you the year-to-date change in the S&P and in all the assets that we look at. We can see that, so far this year, S&P is down 2%. So we're deflating slightly. We can see that IV has reacted quite aggressively. 30-day IV is up about 3 points. 60-day IV is up about 2.6 points. We look at the Nasdaq and we see a very different picture. The S&P still looks relatively bullish. We still have this uptrend in place. For the Nasdaq, we have a picture which is starting to get a bit worrying. Now, it doesn't mean that we are about to sort of collapse, but we understand the overall background that we see with interest rates, the March meeting for the Fed becoming a very live meeting, something very important, and we can see that we're breaking lower in the Nasdaq. This is something to watch for. We're down 5% on the year for the Nasdaq. 30-day IV is up 5 points, so we'll see IV a bit later on, but we can see that there is a reaction in the vol market as well. So in Europe, it's quite interesting. We're seeing a very different picture. If we look at the German DAX, 40 biggest German companies, you can see that the German DAX is still trading at the highs. Obviously, it's not in such an uptrend as the S&P would be, for example, or the Nasdaq would have been, but we can see that it's sort of like quite resilient, unchanged on the year. We can see IVs sort of like going slightly higher because the uncertainty is building in the US, but we can see European equities are doing quite well. Same thing with the Euro Stoxx 50, the 50 biggest European stocks by market cap, so we can see down 60 basis points on the year. We can see that the Nikkei has been trading in a range for the last 12 months, so quite a sort of like a boring like Japanese market at the moment, really. I mean, there is a lot going on under the surface, but at the top level, obviously, very little happening. If you want to talk about a market that corrects, look into the Chinese equity market. I mean, Chinese equities have gone from 12,000 on the HSCI all the way down to 8,000, down 30%. Pretty much in a straight line. I mean, like it's a continuous slide, bouncing about 5.6% on the year. We can see implied vols are deflating slightly. If we move to the Russell, small caps in the US, quite rangy. I mean, we had this big push at the end of November, and then we just collapsed back towards the end of the year last year, and then we're still stuck around this sort of like 2100, 2350 sort of a range in the Russell. In the Dow Jones, on the other hand, I mean, we're pushing higher, and the blue chips are continuing to push higher in spot. Let's look at vol now. S&P 30-day implied vol. IV is reacting quite a lot, so we can see that 2021 there was sort of like two sides to the year. The first half, vols deflated massively. We can see this big downtrend in IV. Second half, from July to December, IV started to go back up, and we are still in this sort of like vol expansion environment at the moment, and we can see that at the moment probably 50th percentile in the S&P. If we are looking at medium-term volatility, so here we're looking at 6-month IV, same picture pretty much. I mean, the IV from the month of July is starting to trend higher, and we're still in that sort of trend at the moment, at least so it seems. This chart is just showing you implied volatility index, which is a measure that we created that allows us to sort of estimate the fair value for implied volatility for a specific term. So in this case, we're looking at 180 days. Looking at the Nasdaq, we can see that the front end of the vol curve in the Nasdaq, the 30-day in this case, has reacted quite aggressively. We're pushing way higher. We're back, sort of back towards the October highs. We are not far off the December highs. We're looking at around like 23, 24 vols on the Nasdaq 30 days. If we look at longer dated in the Nasdaq, we're seeing relatively the same picture, and vols drifting higher. The drift up in the Nasdaq probably started slightly later, maybe September, something like that, but vols are drifting higher in the Nasdaq as well. European vols look pretty low. They look relatively subdued. This is 30-day implied vol for the DAX, German DAX. Again, probably trading around the 30th percentile. Chinese IV, I mean, if you remember, we had this massive slide in spot in China. We can see that HSCI, we're looking at 20 vol on the 30-day basis. So a few stock charts I want to show you. So top chart is going to be spot price. Bottom chart is just IV. First story would be aligned on 20% on the year. I mean, we can see that IV has reacted quite a lot, pretty much at the highs of the last 12 months. If we look at Twitter's down 10% on the year. We have earnings coming up, obviously, in a few weeks. Stocks down 10%. Plus on the year, we can see that 30-day IV is up 20 points going into earnings. So if we look at Peloton, I mean, the stock is continues to slide. I mean, it's trading sub 40 now, sub $40. IV is reaching 100 vol. If you look at Schlumberger, very strong start to the year, up 26%. We've got a little bit of a spot up, vol up phenomenon, so that's quite interesting. We see the same picture in Halliburton. I mean, Halliburton is up 26% as well, and we see IVX 30 up about 4 points. So spot up, vol up in Schlumberger and Halliburton. Another example is in Ford, spot up, vol up. We can see that such a violent move, up 20% in a few weeks. If you're long calls in those, I mean, that's the sort of you gain on both sides. I mean, you gain on the vol and you gain on the spot. Amazing move as well when you take some when you zoom out in Ford. I mean, we were trading at around $10 beginning of 2021. We are now trading around 25. So amazing spot move. Wells Fargo, nice story as well. A year ago, we were trading around $32. We're trading around 50, 58 at the moment. We can see that IV has barely reacted. When you can find a good combination of like low volatility and good potential upside, buying calls makes for great returns in such examples. Moderna is down 20% on the year, but the IVX is down 1%. So we see that the vol is staying relatively steady in Moderna, despite the fact that the stock is down another 20% year to date. So there's no recommendation. That's not the business that we're in. We don't make any recommendation, but we just wanted to flag a few charts that we thought were interesting from a trading perspective, things that we think are quite interesting, where we see spot up, vol up. These kind of things are generally interesting to look for. And again, if you find this kind of market review interesting, then let us know and we'll try to do more. Don't hesitate to put any questions you may have at the bottom of the video. We'll be more than happy to try and help whenever we can. If you want to try our products, obviously please go on volatility.com. We offer 2 weeks free trial, so don't hesitate to give us a shot and to try the product we offer. Thank you. Bye-bye.